Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Left Wing History. It's me, Danny, from Body Politic Media. Today, I'm going to let you know about Helen Gahagan Douglas, opera singer, actress, congresswoman, and all-around extraordinary person representing Los Angeles, California in the 1940s. All right, let's see if I can do this whole backstory in one shot. She was born in the year 1900 in Boonton, New Jersey, and then grew up in Park Slope, Brooklyn. Ended up going to Columbia University for a little while, but then dropped out and then became an actress against her father's wishes. She became successful on Broadway in the 20s, then decided she wanted to be an opera singer. So she took a couple years of singing lessons, became great at that, and then started touring the world as an opera singer. Came back to Broadway in the 30s, and then did a play with her future husband, Melvin Douglas, also an actor. And then she went to LA and starred in a movie called She. And then in the late 30s, she was singing opera in Europe, in Austria, and she ran into some fucking Nazis, and it freaked her out. So then, radicalized her. So she moved back to LA and decided to get involved in politics, and specifically anti-Nazi politics. Her and her husband were introduced to FDR and Eleanor Roosevelt around this time, I guess, and so they became quick friends. And Eleanor Roosevelt kind of became like a political mentor to her, and FDR urged her to run for Congress in 1944 in Los Angeles. So she ran and won her first race in 44, and then spent 3 terms in the House of Representatives. At the time, she was one of the more left-wing members of Congress, for sure. She fought for civil rights, women's rights, migrant worker rights, affordable housing, taxing the rich, nuclear disarmament. She sponsored an anti-lynching bill. She was fighting then for a lot of the same stuff that we're still fighting for today, like 80 years later or whatever. But this is all leading up to 1950, the 1950 midterms, and she decided that she wanted to challenge an incumbent Democrat and run for the Senate in California. So the incumbent senator at the time was a guy named Sheridan Downey, and against the party's wishes, she decided that this guy wasn't progressive enough, so she was going to try to primary him from the left. He ended up dropping out of the race before the primary even happened due to health issues, I guess, but he threw his support behind some rich guy named Manchester Bodie, who was the owner of the LA Daily News at the time. She beat this guy in the primary, became the Democratic nominee, and Senator Sheridan Downey was pretty salty about this whole thing, so he decided to not endorse her, the Democratic nominee, and instead endorsed the Republican nominee. Sounds familiar, right? We're still dealing with shit like that right now. Guess who the Republican nominee was in 1950? A young congressman named Richard Milhouse Nixon. So this election is known now as like one of the more brutal campaigns in California history. Nixon's campaign manager, he explained, and I quote, "The purpose of an election is not to defeat your opponent, but to destroy them." So that's what they did, man. They attacked her for being a communist. They said, she's pink right down to her underwear, which is weird. They printed a bunch of flyers on pink paper, saying that she sympathized with the Soviet Union. They attacked her husband because he was Jewish with anti-Semitic shit. It was all about character assassination. So it was an early election, and Nixon ended up winning pretty easily. But I will say that she popularized in this election the term Tricky Dick, the nickname Tricky Dick for Richard Nixon, which is ended up kind of sticking with him for his entire career. So anyways, Nixon won and then became Richard Nixon, and she pretty much retired from politics at this time. She stayed active, in certain ways, but that's pretty much it with her. I was reading about her the other day. I didn't know much about her, and I thought her story was interesting. So, I wanted to take a little break from my usual content and make this little video for you guys. But yeah, look her up. She was a badass lady. And that's all. Thanks for listening. Talk to you later.